Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us to watch Bring on the Dancing Horses at the 2022 Sundance Film Festival. My name is Adam Montgomery. I'm Senior Manager of Programming for the festival, and I really hope that you check out all of the other amazing projects in our indie episodic program, and of course the feature films and short films throughout the festival. I hope you've all had a wonderful festival so far. And I'm very excited to have with us the writer and director of Bring on the Dancing Horses for this Q&A, Michael Polish.
All right, thanks, Adam. I appreciate that. We go back some time, and it's really nice. As I said to you when you called me and said that we were accepted, this is my fifth time, but it still feels like the first time. Nothing feels better than getting into Sundance as it started my career, and it continues to be such a big part of it.
Well, it kind of is the first time because you're here for the first time with an episodic project.
Right.
So I'd like to, jump into the exploration of that. Like, what made you want to create something that was episodic in nature as opposed to a feature? Because a big part of the reason why we started this program was, kind of seeing the way in which independent film had a market to, for people to go out there and, produce things independently and be creative in their, own minds, whereas like the episodic world kind of didn't have that. um, so it's really great to, be able to present all these projects, but talk a little bit about your desire to want to get into that space.
I think, I believe naturally as a filmmaker doing features, you have the ability to do something in 90 minutes or 2 hours, and you don't get to explore the character as much as you wanted to do in episodic. And I wanted to jump into television, but I wanted to do it in a way that I knew naturally, and that was through independent filmmaking. And sometimes, groundbreaking stuff, which is nice about Sundance, is we were able to not just do a pilot, which I felt limited because that almost feels like a feature to me. It almost felt like doing a feature and then you have to go sell it. And my biggest hesitation was, how do we get the band back together if this is successful? How do we go to Sundance 8 months later, how is this going to work again? So the confidence of saying, let's go do 10 episodes felt the same way that when you make a feature film. And there's a lot of risk in that, but there's also a lot of reward because you can then take those 10 episodes and make an imprint out in the world with it, if that's a one-off.
Because a lot of the projects that we played in the past that have only been able to make one episode, and those that are lucky enough to get distribution interests, then the studio that purchases them takes that and kind of completely reworks the concept too. So you in some ways have allowed yourself to create a full season on your own, which I think is really special and almost unheard of in this space right now. So what was the thought process behind wanting to do the whole thing yourself?
The initial thought was, we have 5 hours, 6 hours of programming, we have those scripts, and the idea was you have to understand that everybody now is a team player. So you have to get the actor has to be fully committed for those 10 episodes. Your crew has to be fully committed. Unlike a feature where you're 90 minutes, you're actually asking somebody to spend much time with you. And but that's the production side. The creative side was, hey, it hasn't been done before. So we're now not just artists, we're astronauts. We now have to go into an area that hasn't been done before. And I've never known it to be done before, because traditionally we're going up, you look at tradition, you go, well, you have a showrunner, you have multiple writers, you have multiple directors. And then the vision to be intact, I said, let's just do this as a feature. And we broke it down into 10 episodes, and I directed each one, and the continuity was there. It's not at this point, independent series is not going to be a producer's medium like it is in television. It's going to probably still be the auteur way of doing things.
And so, speaking of producers too, Kate Bosworth, who's obviously wonderful in this, and you both have a personal relationship, of course. What was it like, getting something produced? Obviously during the past 2 years, it's been a little bit different in creating anything. So, what was that process like?
The intimacy that's created between artist and, let's say, muse at a time, or let's say an actor, let's say John Cassavetes and Gina Rollins, and Paul Newman and Jordan, there's an intimacy that there's a trust factor. And when you get into that relationship, it really pays dividends when you start to do something, especially in time of COVID, because we're in lockdown, we're in a bubble. She's always been an advocate for the visions that I've had for different things. And when we went to Montana, the location itself was COVID friendly because it's a remote area. We know we're related to a lot of the area, the city of Butte, we know very well. So having a partnership really helps when you go into this situation, having a good producer. And she produced a couple of things in the past with me, but what was difficult was that she was also the lead. And I could see that could be a problem, but she was able to do both. And I commend her for that. And I don't know how she survived. I don't know how she survived. I really don't.
Well, she's not here, so I know.
I know. But I would say, Adam, you're calling out the obvious. She's no longer with us.
And so, I mean, luckily we were able to, be able to program this one, this kind of pilot episode with maybe a little bit extra thrown in for good measure. Yeah. For the audience who might be interested in, where it kind of goes from here, could you talk a little bit about that?
Let's say the esoteric nature of my movies sometimes don't seem to all wrap up. And that's also the beauty of doing 10 episodes. This is a story of an assassin. This is a female assassin that goes, and as random as everything feels, it's all connected. There's a whole connected network. She connects the dots, and we're to understand that this is a family. And if you think of your own family, you go, I have cousins in Iowa, I have cousins in Montana or LA, like, how is it related? You find out that it's just really the nucleus. And through those 10 episodes, she connects the dots.
Right. And so you chose to do I know it's a modern day Western, but I've always been fascinated and a huge fan of the Western genre throughout the years. Yeah. What were some of your influences in not only choosing to do that, but just, in what you've responded to in the past and maybe what, spoke to you throughout the making of this?
Yeah, the first initial idea, and this is dark, was I was driving through North Dakota and I was with Kate and we were going on the High Line in the Balkan fields where they're doing oil. And I said, what's it going to be like if you just pull over and you knock on somebody's door and you wanted to kill him, right? And she's like, nobody would know. And I said, so that was a very initial idea of knocking on somebody's door and doing it a very polite way and then driving off. And so that was, but then I've always been fascinated with Stranger with No Name, or The Man with No Name, which was the Clint Eastwood genres, which is the Word Warrior, the Mad Max genres, and some of the genres that came out of the 80s and 90s. And we see that with a lot of people, which is the reluctant hero, but also the person that has no name. And Clint Eastwood did it. And I thought when I wrote this, it would be very interesting to throw Kate into that role and see how she would handle it. So it's very male eccentric in the terms that that's the genre, but it's nice to have a female come in and understand that too.
And also, I mean, her the costume design in general is so great, and I think just the production design. What is that like when you're in Montana and shooting something like this? Is there a community of those people, or did you have to bring people in from LA or somewhere else? Or
it was sorry for jumping in. It's a combination of having done projects in Montana before, having a network. Montana now, because of Yellowstone and I think it's 1883, they do have the depth of crew is growing, and people are coming out of actually Utah and Salt Lake City. So we're seeing a lot migration go back and forth. And I think because of Salt Lake City, we have a lot of depth, and now we have people in Bozeman, we have people in Hamilton and those areas. And so it's growing. Some of the key people that I've worked with in the past have to come from LA, or they come from other areas, but there is a lot of crew in Montana now that understands. And a lot of the crew on this particular show came from Chicago. When TV went down, we were using a lot of Chicago Fire and Chicago PD, and this is a crew that understands the cold, and we're shooting in the winter. So it was nice to have a Chicago crew come out and be in Montana. And so that helped a lot.
That's really fascinating. And so, we touched upon the idea that this is kind of new territory and like, an independent community creating episodic content. And, what do you think that your strategy is going forward as far as, like what happens if, if you have this full season and, uh, you're trying to work outside of a studio system, like what do you think is the best way to move forward for a project like yours, because it's kind of a unicorn, there just aren't
Yeah,
that
yeah,
many.
it is the I think about this quite a bit, and there's two parts to this answer. One is independent filmmakers have never asked for permission because they know that they're never going to get it. So they go out and they make their films and they do some of the greatest stories have been told because somebody said no. And some things aren't so great. When you do something new, you have to understand that it's going to take longer to get this out in the marketplace than it is traditionally saying there's a pickup. But what's really, really important is there's a place like Sundance that's able to showcase and have a platform and really the ramp, because I'm on the outside and you've been on at this festival for a while. You don't have another outlet. You don't have something to show. You can go to South by Southwest or other festivals, but there's nothing like the Sundance experience. And I say that because my career is so much different without having Sundance in 98 and 99. So when you look at something new, like Bring On the Dancing Horses, we now have the platform to say, this is probably the way of the future. This is probably the revolution we've been looking for. And filmmakers that want to do serialized stuff now can look and say, look, I can do this. I can be in television, I can be in streaming.
Yeah, no, and that's been our goal for the last, 5 or 6 years, just saying like, hey, why is there a studio system for this? And then, people are, kind of allowed to work outside of that, within the film world. But so we have a lot of other, we actually have the opportunity to, talk, you and I and a bunch of the other creators. What's some of the work that has kind of stood out to you in this program this year?
The stuff from Bogota, that filmmaker that did that beautiful Spanish movie,
Yeah.
That's a real intriguing way to see a pilot. And that is what I would imagine Sundance is supporting the most when they have a pilot episode, even though that we have 10 episodes and we have a pilot to go with those. That young filmmaker is somebody to really look at. I mean, really something special. I mean, everybody in this category you've picked great. But as I look at stuff, if you were to say, what's you going to look at this, that's pretty dang neat.
Yeah, he was referring to Cheeky, another pilot episode that we're playing in Indie Episodic this year. Michael, thank you so much for joining us and allowing us to present the world premiere of Bring On the Dancing Horses. We're just thrilled to have you yet again, and I look forward to seeing you in the virtual festival space. I know we have a lot of we have our New Frontier spaceship where we can interact with people as festival goers, which if you weren't able to do that last year, I highly recommend it. It really kind of brings back that in-person festival feel, even though we can't be together in Park City. But I know that we will be together in Park City again soon, I'm sure.
Oh, I know. This is number 5. If I get to number 6, that bottle of whiskey is going to be big.
We may just have to cut you off.
I'm just saying, 6 might be, and I remember going back and getting in my 3rd time going, that's it. That's going to be it, And, I really do. And I speak to other filmmakers when I say that the more yourself, the more original you are, the more it's your voice, the more Sundance pays attention to you, and I really believe that the farther you go out, the farther you become yourself, you as a Sundance and you as a whole really respect that.
We try to, definitely. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. And again, everybody, please be sure to check out all of the other great films that we're playing at the festival this year, as well as the projects in the Indie Episodic program. And thanks for being here, Michael.
Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate it. Nice having a conversation with you again.